帰ってきて、あの子はアメリカかぶれだからなんか嫌だみたいなっていうのは結構あるね。
Welcome to the lazyfluency podcast, where we have casual conversations switching between English and Japanese so that you can learn from and with us along the way. I'm Joey.
And I'm Yami.
And the topic of the day is Weebs. Before we get into that, make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and/or drop a review on the platform you're listening on. And if you feel so inclined, support us on Ko-Fi. We appreciate the support. And with that out of the way, Weebs. Are you into Japanese pop culture? Do you perhaps watch anime or read manga? Maybe you're into all things Japanese. How do Japanese people feel about that? I'm extremely surprised that I don't think we've directly talked about this topic. It's like one of the most common things I feel with Japanese learners. I think I've talked indirectly about it, like when using anime as a resource, but I don't think we've ever talked specifically about, well, you know, what weebs are, how Japanese feel about weebs, and something else I want to talk about, which is how Japanese feel about Japanese people who like get obsessed about other, you know, cultures and countries. I think you've had opinions that some of your friends see like that with you and with America. But first, I want to define some terms here. Weebs or weeaboo, you don't hear it as much now, but, you know, colloquially, this can mean anybody who just likes anything Japanese related. But let me be more clear. When I'm speaking of weebs, I'm talking about somebody who's like obsessed to the point that they kind of just like want to be Japanese, and they're just everything that they do, like Japanese is their personality or their character trait. I'm going to even call, you know what, I might even throw in like the Japanese learners who like put themselves in a box for 24 hours a day to learn Japanese. I think that might put you into weeb category at that point too.
So,
I mean, have you ever talked about is this like this in the US? This was like at a time a pretty big like discussion point in terms of you can't like like I said in the anime video I meant, which is like if liking anime is somehow disrespectful to Japanese culture. Dimsing, do you have any thoughts on weebs or weeboo, or have you heard of the discussion in Japan at all?
あれだよね、ウィーブとかウィーブは、その外国人が日本の、まあ、カルチャーに対してめちゃめちゃ興味持ってるってやつでしょ。日本人が日本の、まあ、アニメとかに興味あるのは入らないよね、それに。
It's not just 興味ある. It's like, you know how, like, you know,
熱狂的な感じ。
You know, like idol shows? You know, like idol shows in Japan? Like, idol? Imagine, like, you know, the Sanjusai, like the 30-year-old dude into like an idol anime. Like, and now imagine that all that energy was from an American, except it was towards Japan. That's kind of what a weeb is.
まあ、なんて言うんだろうね。少なくとも私は、まあ、日本に興味を持ってくれてて面白いと思うし、なんかストーリーを聞きたいと思うよ。なんでどうやって、それが好きになったのかとか、どこで見つけたとかね、どんなことをしてるのかね、普段。とか、なんかすごい気になる系だな、私は。なんでそこに至ったのかね。でもなんか、まあ、そうね、なんか、すごい、度がさ、なんか、度を越してなんていうの、熱狂的になってるウィアブとかウィーブの人たちはさ、I love 日本とかさ、なんか T シャツで I love なんとかとかなんか、なんとかちゃんとかね。結構そういう人もなんかいるらしいじゃん。私そういう人はまあ直接話したとかね、見たことはないからわかんないんだけど、ね、まあ初めてそういう人に会ったら多分また別の意見を持つかもしれない。
It's yeah. I mean, your response didn't surprise me. I feel like most Japanese people, when it comes to foreigners, they take away all their biases that they put towards Japanese people, and they're like, oh, I'm happy that they like Japan. And that's something I think we've talked about before, which is I feel, let's call it patriotism or whatever you like it, but maybe I'm just too negative about America. Anytime I hear somebody's like liking America a lot, my question is why? But when everybody's like, oh, you like Japan, they're like, I'm so proud, I'm so thankful. I'm like, are you guys what, part of the military right now? Like,
違う、なんかそれはさ、あれでしょ。それはまあ上位がさ、アメリカに対して今いろいろな、なんか悪い点 アメリカに住む上での、まあ、ディスアドバンテージとかをさ、結構、まあ、思ってるからさ、なんでこんなアメリカが好きなんだみたいな思うと思うんだよ。でも、私にとっては、なんか、ね、日本を好きになったきっかけっていうのを、なんか、なんでだろうとか気になる。
Yeah, but I definitely think you have like a sense, there's like a general sense of appreciation from most Japanese people.
Mm.
But I will say, now, imagine those same feelings. So let's not even talk about other countries yet. So imagine you have a Japanese, an American dude who's obsessed with, Love Live and, all the Japanese stuff. And he's always using like, Japanese in his English or her English or their English. Dressing up constantly, going like every day to school, like basically cosplaying. Except instead of an American, they're a Japanese person. Now, do your feelings and thoughts change about this person?
Every day は、なんだろうね。
Not every. Okay, it's okay. We're giving an example here. That's.
まあ、難しいな。いや、私は、ね。
Do you think, wow, I'm so happy this person really likes Japan?
なんか、ハッピーっていうかなんかそれがその人のキャラクターを作ってると思うから、別にいいと思うんだよね。なんか、そこら辺の周りの人とさ、なんか、合わせて自分を表現しないよりかは、なんか私はこれが好きですとか、私のパッションはこれですっていうのを全面的に示してくれた方が、なんか面白い人だなと思うし、個人的に全然悪い印象は持たないんだけど。
I express heavy doubt. I express heavy doubt. And the reason I express heavy doubt is you do not have a positive image of most, like, what we call, not the word weeb, but the Japanese version of it, which is otaku. Like being like anime otaku. If I say anime otaku, it's all the stuff I just said, but in your head, now it's a completely different thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I say, instead of saying weeb, if I say the word anime otaku, you're like, now this is person who is cringy.
アニメオタク。いや、なんかね、最初私も、小学、中学、高校とかの時は、それこそ、あんまり、なんて言うんだろうね。みんながみんなアニメを見てるとか漫画読んでるとかじゃなかったから、もう一部の人しか、そういう、なんていうの？そういうカルチャーに、なんていうの？興味を持ってる人しかいなかったから、アニメとか漫画が好きな人っていうのは、こういう人なのかなっていう、なんていうの？なんとなくのイメージはあって、で、ちょっと現実逃避したい人みたいな。だからそういうイメージはあったっちゃあったのね。昔は私がね。
でも、I'm adding the あった part of this thing here.
でもそれはなんでかというと自分が無知だったからさ、無知っていうかなんていうんだろうね。
だった
だったっていうか、そう。なんか、そう勝手なね、固定観念持ってて、こういう人たちはこうなんだっていう、なんて言うんだろうね。そう。なんか先入観っていうかね、を持ってたっちゃ持ってたし、私の親がね、漫画見ちゃいけない、アニメ見ちゃいけないとか、なんかそういう系だったのね。で、ゲームも私も、ちっちゃい頃しちゃいけないかったから、ゲームとかしたことないし、だからさ、知らない世界だったからさ、もう教えられた通りのことしか信じられないわけよ。だからアニメを見る人はこういう人だみたいなね。だからそういう感じで、そういう人たちは、ちょっと、なんて言うんだろうね。実際の人間関係よりも、アニメとかに入り浸って、ちょっと違う異世界に行きたいのかなみたいな、そういうイメージだったんだけど、なんか今となってはさ、なんかみんな、もうちっちゃい子から大人、もう高齢者の人もさ、アニメを見てるわけじゃん。だから、なんだろうね。もっといろんな人に受け入れられてきたし、あとバリエーションもすごい増えた気がするんだよね。アニメの数であったり、なんかカテゴリーとかね。 だから全然なんかマイナスのイメージはないかな。うん。
I think that's what you'd like to be. You know, I think that's the person you'd like to be. That's the person
あ、
you're
そうだ
talking
よ
about
ね。
now.
実際は違う。
Because well, here's the thing. Here, the reason I don't talk about anime that much, you know, is because you hate it every time I talk about anime. And here's the thing. That I want to be clear. I'm not talking about people just watching anime. We already know. I did the whole anime video. Most Japanese people watch anime, but it's not watch anime in the, you know, English sense of the word watch anime. It's like saying it's the difference between in the US, somebody watching The Office, which is something that everybody has seen, and then someone who, I don't know, is like, oh gosh, I don't really know enough about TV shows to make obscure TV show references, because I'm more of an anime dude. But I don't know, somebody's watching a 1975 drama and he's like watching with his other movie friends or something, like a film buff type person. And so when we're saying watch anime, I'm not saying like someone who just seen Korean Shinchan or Sazae-san or Doraemon or One Piece. I'm talking about somebody who's like really into it. So that cuts out a lot of the groups here. And I think the other thing is when you're part of a group, okay, for one, let's be clear that I think there is, even to this day, a cringy component to, like, anytime anybody's into anything in Japanese that you could apply to otaku, it's kind of a negative stereotype. Because, like, you know, if you speak too much about something or get too excited about something, it's a bad thing in Japan. You know what I mean?
いや、全然ダートじゃないよ。だってなんでかっていうとさ、
Well, you're just gonna lie to me all day. You're just gonna lie to me all day.
ちょっと聞いて hear me out なんだけど、オタクっていう言葉ってさ、なんか、多分、アニメとか漫画とかね、に使われてる、だけに使われてるって思ってるかもしれないけど、例えば、なんだろう、勉強オタクとか、歴史オタクとか、車オタクとか、その自分が好きな趣味に対して、すごくパッショネットの人のことをオタクっていうし、まあ自分からも、私、なんだろう、健康オタクなんだよね、とかね。そのすごい食生活に気を使ってて、運動めちゃめちゃしてる。
By not just anime. And I'm saying, in most situations, in a conversation, that would be, you don't have to use the English word cringy, but you're going to get the same response from Japanese people. And with anime, I think it's more than like anything, you know, normally. If you start talking about something really passionate in Japan, I feel like it makes a lot of people draw back and be like, wow, this person is like pushing their opinion too much, or they're too loud, or they're too like, you know, they're just annoying, or they can't kuki yomana, like all those things. And I'm a guy who talks a lot, so I've been in this situation a billion times. So.
それはあれでしょ？まあ、ここでは、アメリカでそういう話、アニメをずっと喋るとかね。そういう話になった時に、なんか、ちょっと嫌がられるみたいな感じでしょ？でも日本でそんな。
I'm talking about hold up, no, I'm talking about Japan. I'm talking about Japan right now. I'm not talking about America. In America, we have all like that. That's what Americans love doing, finding little niches. Either argue about something or complain about something together. That's how you get it in America. Or like freak out about something. That's the American go-to for becoming someone's friend. In Japan, from my experience, and I don't know why you're acting like, I don't know what kind of your personal experiences you get an idea this isn't the case. I've even had so many different times when we've had a group of Japanese together, and one person in the I can even think about it. One time we had Japanese groups together, and one of the persons started talking about a manga they liked, and then cut themselves off because they were like, "Oh, I was getting a little bit too in, you know, like I was getting too into it, and like speaking, you know, getting like tension was getting too takai, and you're getting like way into the that thing." But I want to steer this a little bit and talk about we call it the Ameriboo, or, you know, other countries, I don't know, England, or I don't know, France, Sweden. What are Japan's opinions? For one, what's the term? You know, you can teach everybody the term for Weebs, for Japanese people, and what is the opinion of Japanese people on it? So you're saying you're fine with Americans or other people being Weebs for Japan, but do Japanese people feel the same way about Japanese people feeling that way about other countries?
なんか、例えば、まあ、よく言われるのは、なんとかかんとかかぶれっていうのね。まあ、かぶれの前に、まあ、国であったり、まあ、英語とかね、言うんだけど、例えばアメリカがめちゃめちゃ好きで、なんだろう、留学したりとかね、して、まあ、帰ってきて、あの子はアメリカかぶれだからなんか嫌だみたいなっていうのは結構あるね。なんだっけ、アメリカブ
アメラブ
アメラブそうそうそう。で、なんかそういう、なんとかかぶれ、イギリスかぶれとか、英語かぶれとか、よくあるのが、例えばさ、まあ、ある人がアメリカに、まあ1年間留学してきましたと。で、帰ってきて、もう、姿も、なんか行動も、なんか、ちょっとアメリカっぽくなってて、前までは、日本人の、なんていうの？まあ、定番のさ、前髪パッツンの、黒髪の長かったのに帰ってきたら、ちょっと、金髪っぽくなって、前髪なくなって、なんかメイクアップもアメリカっぽくなって、みたいな。そうやってなってきて、で、友達、久しぶりに、会った友達が、ちょっと、なんか、あの子、アメリカかぶれだよね、みたいな。っていうのがあって、多分それは、なんだろうね。なんかちょっとジェラシーも入ってるかもしれないんだけど、なんだろうね。未知なるものに対して、結構、なんだろう。日本人っていうか、日本人に限ったことかわかんないけど、なんか、ね、まあ、いじめっていうか。
Where's the positive feelings? Where's the, it's the same thing, right? Why are we not loving the kabure?
私は別にいいよ。私は別にいいと思うよ。なんなら。
Well, that's because you get called a kabure, to be clear.
うん。え
You get called, was America kabure でしょ？
あ、そうね。なんか誰に言われたか忘れたけど。なんか、私結構英語が勉強したいから、日本の映画よりかは、まあ、洋画ね。Western movies とかの方が好きだし、そういう、なんていうの、ものに、より触れられるように、してるんだけど、そうすると、なんか、アメリカかぶれとかさ、なんかマジで意味わかんないんだけど。ね。とか、でも私自身はそういう、なんて言うんだろう、何かに、興味を示していて、すごい熱中できる人は素晴らしいと思うし、なんなら友達の友達になんか、イギリスにめちゃめちゃ憧れてて、なんか、毎日スーツ着て、なんか、イギリスの文化と、なんかアクセントを、なんか、追求してる人みたいなのがいるんだけど、なんかそれはそれですごくかっこいいっていうかね、なんか好きなものを突き詰めて、なんか、やってるんだと思って、まあかっこいいと思うよ。けど、他の人からすると、はい、それはあんまり、なんか、
他の人。
まあ、アベレージね、多分ね、わかんないけど、アベレージからすると、多分自分が、なんて言うんだろうね、できないとかであったり、自分の知らない世界だから、ちょっと、なんて言うの？嫌気がさしちゃうとか、なんて言うんだろうね。ちょっといじめたくなるとか、そういう気分になるのかね、わかんないけどね。だからそうね、それが、まあ意見っていうか、うん、そんなのかな。
To be clear, my opinion is not that I want to bully anybody. My thing is anytime I feel that someone's commodity is their personality or someone's, consumption is their personality, I find it overwhelmingly cringy and it cannot operate anymore. As a Japanese, like in Japanese class, there were many a weeb. And here's the thing. As a man, so here's like the fine line. If you're listening to this podcast this whole time and you've never seen the YouTube video, you might have some idea of how much I consume Japanese stuff or don't consume Japanese stuff. But I would be surprised if many people think that I'm like a full-blown weeb. And but at the same time, I do consume a lot of stuff. And if you were to look at the background of the YouTube, I think every single thing in sight is basically Japanese. And so I was imagining this from a Japanese perspective. If there was a Japanese person who had, instead of a JoJo poster, had a, Captain America poster with comic books across every section of his room, and then like a Captain America shield in the background with a Spider-Man helmet. If they would classify as a marabou, but I think it's definitely it's not about what you like and consume. It's about how you carry yourself. And from my experience, and, I'm not like, and I ran like I think I told you a strategy and games club in high school, where I had a mix of, let's just say, very antisocial people, or people with difficulties with socializing, and then very literally football players and like other sports, because I used to be in a bunch of different sports teams. So it was one of the weirdest groupings ever. So I'm not here to bully anybody. I'm all like, trying to invite, mix up all the different types of people, but my body cannot take it. And like Japanese 101, I just remember there's so many people that before we even, when I think about it, it's just like, maybe in Japanese it'd be the equivalent, be like, what would it be like in Japanese? Like adding like, chan or san. What would that equivalent be? Like adding English into I guess Japanese people already add English into their Japanese. It's called katakana. And I hate katakana, as we established. So maybe, you know what I'm saying? Like English people can add like chan, Ayami-chan. How's it going, desu? You're looking so kawaii. Making me cute. You know what I'm saying? You're dying. It makes me die. I'm not trying to bully anybody. It just does make me die, and I can't help it.
なんだろうね。わかんない。でも実際にそういう場面に、出くわしたことないかわかんないんだけど、まあ、それを毎回されたら、なんだろう、どう思うんだろうね。わかんない。嬉しいと思うかもしれないし、しつこいと思う。
Can you come up with the Japanese equivalent of speaking like, how would a marabou sound like?in Japanese.
でもそれはもう、なんか私もやっちゃってるかもしれないんだけど、なんか会話に英語を混ぜてくるみたいな。
No, but what kind of English would you put it? Yo? No, but you already have yo in Japanese.
例えばさ。
僕はジョイだ、yo. You have to use yo with like,
なんで、例えばね、なんだろう。なんか落とした時に、ウプスとか、なんかやっちゃうんだよね、私も。で、あと、人とぶつかった時に sorry とか言っちゃったり、すいませんとかじゃなくてね。あと、water くださいとか、なんか混ぜるみたいなね。あと、
Those are like using the correct context though. I think that's like a big difference. And it's all about the way you say it. I'm trying to imagine what an American, I can imagine like what a political Japanese American, like a Japanese dude who's like a politically in a marabou, who's like, and there's a lot of people like Europeans especially who like are basically follow American politics more than their own politics, and like are knowing like the specific intricacies of state elections in the United States. And I've met many European like that, and I'm like, I mean, go ahead.
あとね。なんかね、嫌な顔された時があって、なんだっけな。なんか、そうだ。なんかね、確か、まあ今は私ローテーションしてるじゃん。で、まあホスピタルローテーションでね。で、まあニューヨークに1ヶ月間病院行きましたと。で、あっちだとさ、まあ結構、まあ自由なのね。もう洋服とか髪色とか髪型とか。まあ、アクセサリーとかもね。で、私が、なんだろう。結構、なんだろうね。まあ、その実習中とかにも、まあ、ピアスをつけてったりとか、あと、なんか、帰ってきた直後に、結構足を組んじゃってたのね。アメリカだと結構足を組むことって多いじゃん。fold your, leg. こんな感じで座るときにね。なんかそれを、そうそう。それをね、なんか日本で目上の人にすると、なんか感じ悪いっていうか、ルードらしくて。でもさ、なんか普通に座るだから、違う、no folding。
普通に座る
座るって
そう、正座
on a chair で普通に、だからフォードしなくて、こうやって座んないと、なんか、 座るんだけど。
I see. Like
なんか、フォールドすると、なんかちょっと、なんていうの、なんか威張ってるみたいな感じで。でもさ、アメリカだと普通に先生の前でこうやって座ってたりとかみんなするじゃん。で、それに慣れちゃって、その1ヶ月間で。で、それ帰ってきてから、それをなんかちょっとまあ、気づかないでしてたら、なんか嫌な顔されたとか、なんだろうね、お前、なんだ、アメリカに行ってかぶれてんじゃねえよ、みたいな感じで言われて、あんま気づかなかったんだけど。
Wait, like, by a person or by like a professor?
Professor じゃなくて、by like other people in the same year でさ、とか、なんだろう、あと、あっちではとか言うと、なんか、アメリカ部とかなんか言われたり、いや、
That's probably one of the things that annoys me the most about, I guess Japanese people share the similarity with Americans. Maybe it's just across all countries, but I feel like Europeans don't do as much because they're in the, a lot of them are in the, EU, and because of that, you're able to see how things work in different countries. And I would like to think like I haven't met that many opinions of Europeans. Like when I met Europeans, they always seem open to being like, well, how is something done somewhere else? Or in Japan and the US, it's so grating. Anytime you talk about any problem, basically Americans think like America is this like, basically they think Americans are human and every other human on every other, doesn't matter if you cross the line to Canada, they're not human, they're aliens and they interact in ways that Americans cannot understand, and anything that they do in those countries for one reason or another is impossible in America. It doesn't matter what you talk about. It could be urban transportation, could be gun laws, literally anything, constitution, like literally anything. They're like, for some reason, Americans are so great and they're doing everything, yet they fail at everything, and there's always an excuse for it. Like, literally, and then I feel like Japan is very similar, where it's like you point to any other country outside Japan regarding something. Granted, Japan has a lot good, but if you're talking about in terms of like education system of Japan, or you're criticizing it, Japanese people get so incredibly defensive about, which is fine. Like it's all they know, but
なんだろうね、そうそうそう。
Especially the fact, like, yeah.
ね、なんか日本のなんかまあ改善した方がいいポイントとかを上げて、こういうところをこうすればもっと良くなるんだよ。とか、あと、compare to the rest of the world 日本はここがダメだからとか言うと、なんかなんだろう、なんか被れてんなとかなんか言われたりとか、ねえ。よくなんだろうね、conservative なのかね。
It's so rare for me to, yeah, it's so rare for me to hear an actual, like, one of the comment sections about stuff to hear Japanese people will actually use, and whatever. This could be just the medium itself, and people could say, oh, Americans always, like, they always insult each other. Sure they do, and, like, especially, like, a certain type of person. But I feel like you can actually find discussions back and forth way more than I see them in Japanese comment sections, where it just, someone just gets thrown an insult that's meant to other them. So it's either you're like a kabure for something, or they just, I don't know, use some sort of term to insult them to other them and be like, well, they're not you're like, you're brainwashed by other countries, or something like that. And it just gets so incredibly tiring. There's this thing I was listening to about somebody was talking about them getting bullied in Japan, a half black, half Japanese person, and it struck. It felt very poignant because also, like, in an anime that's, I think I told it was like Tomozaki Kyara Tomozaki-kun that's airing right now. It had the same thing happen. I was like, oh, I never thought about this way. But Japanese people, when they get into arguments, they don't argue. They either surrender, and back away and, like, run away, or they get a larger group of number of people and then attack. So the person who was being bullied was talking about physical violence. So he was saying that he was getting literally physically bullied, and he would win some fights, but then the Japanese students would come back with a group of 3 and then a group of 4 and then beat him up.
それはさ、
but I feel like this also applies to arguments online.
するんでしょ。
No, but in an American context, you're called a bitch for doing something like that. It's I'm saying needing to get friends about like no. If you're gonna have a problem with somebody, it's one-on-one. That's considered like cowardly.
だから、
I don't think in the Japanese context it is as much.
そもそもいじめる人ってカワイだからさ、怖いからするんでしょ？で、
No, I don't think you understand. There's still like a pride. Even for the bulliers, there's still a pride. You can watch like a lot of old school, like American, like high school movies too. But the thing that makes the bully like a lot of times break and have a breakdown like in American shows is when he gets shown to be weak individually. It's never really about the group. If you're having beef with somebody, it's always about the one-on-one like Mexican standoff vibe. And I feel like that's still the case with like debate or conversation in America as well. Where if you're expected to have an opinion, you're expected to be able to back it up. You're not expected to go whine to 3 other people and then have them attack you in a conversation or a group of 4. But yeah, I thought it was very sorry, and I'm not going to spoil the Tomozaki-kun analogy there, but if you're watching the season, you might know what I'm talking about.
なんか日本は、まあ、少なくとも、なんか他の人たちとね、同じことをしてないと、それこそ、まあ、レフトアウトになるし、仲間外れそうされて、で、まあもう郷に行っては郷に従えのなんか精神があって、なんだっけ、when in Rome, なんだっけ、do as Romans do だっけ。で、
yeah.
そう。だからそういう、なんて言うんだろうね。考え方がみんなにあって、で、そこに、当てはまらないと、もう、あなたは、このコミュニティに、属さないから、もうエイリアン呼ばわりにするとかね。なんかそんな感じがあるから、本当に、ね。ちょっとって感じだけどね。
I just realized that at least like in the American context where you say like look at some other country doing something, there's always an excuse as to why someone says America can't do it. But with the Japan analogy, when you criticize them in Japan, they don't even make an excuse. They just say like Nihon, like if you hate Japan, why are you in Japan? Or you clearly dislike the other country. So you don't even get a reason. You just get these lazy, and I'm not like flaming wars here, guys. I've been on the internet way too long. Like I was a dude who way back in the day, I'd write paragraph. Shawcox is our paragraph writer, dude. I'd write longer paragraph or equal length on pretty much random comment sections throughout the entire internet. And so I know my comment etiquette. I've fought my wars. But I read them. I still enjoy the game of reading like a conversation. But yeah. If you are a self-identified weeb, write a comment. What is your perspective on this?
ちなみにジョイは
Japanese commentary if we still have any. Sorry, go ahead.
ジョイはあれなの？ウィーブなの？自分どう思うの？自分は。
I would not classify myself a weave based on how I carry myself. I would consider myself definitely very much into Japanese things though. Although I'm not only into Japanese things though, but I will say oh man, there's something I want to talk about, which is like on like the really being into anime thing, which is like even despite how many people like watching anime, I still have yet to find an anime bro, a Japanese anime bro. I'm still searching for one. So yeah, that applications to be my Japanese anime bro. Okay, yeah. 戻りました。
We're back.
今回あゆみはいろんなことについて話したいと思うんだけど。
Oh yeah.
どっから始まるか。
Too many things to talk about, guys. So I had a hectic week last week, and yeah, basically I'm too tired. So what I did last week was like on Friday, I went to this like farewell party for a friend who's going back to Canada. Yeah, he was visiting for
school.
Yeah, he was coming to he came to Japan for working holiday and going back to Canada very soon, like in 2 weeks or something. And I went there. So and then I met a lot of people there. I think I made 4 to 5. There were like 38 people. Yeah. So, yeah. a lot of new people, strangers, and I was so intimidated at first because I'm shy and I don't know what to talk about with strangers. But people there talked to me, and I think I made friends there, a couple of friends there, and they planned another event, which is happening next week, I think. So I gotta go there. And so since that was in Tokyo, I had to go back to my place, and I left Shinjuku after 11 or something. And since my place is pretty far away from Tokyo, it takes like, more than 2 hours. The last train to go back to my place was not there. So I
これ
had,
初めてなの
yeah,
そういう
that was
事
the
件が
first time to miss the last train, and I had to take a taxi. But when I arrived at the station, there was no taxi, so I called the taxi company. And then they said, oh, because all the taxis are out, so that they can't send a taxi right away. So I had to wait about 20 minutes outside. I don't remember what temperature it was, but pretty cold. And I arrived after midnight. Yeah, that was
で
pretty
アメリカ
tiring.
の初めての経験はどうでしたか
America?
考えてみ。そ
Huh?
の、なんか電車ない、なんかどういう、なんか交通機関ない、
Yeah.
それは、すなわち アメリカにいるってこと。
Yeah, I'm so
日常
used
生
to,
活。
yeah, having all the transportations, like, yeah, having trains to go back. Yeah, I took it for granted, so I learned a life
アメリカに
lesson.
もう一度行きたいって感じ、
No. But yeah, that's the story.
どこにも行けなくて、電車なくて、タクシー高いし、
Yeah.
最高。
No.
アメリカ大好き。
And yeah, that was on Friday, and the next day, so there's, so my friend, so there's my friend and, his friend, was visiting, Japan, and his friend got sick in Japan. So he had to
友
go
達の友
to,
達。
yeah, an emergency room at a hospital. But since they can't speak Japanese, I had to help them because like most Japanese doctors cannot speak English, but they can, but like a little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
まあ、英語、なんかある程度、その東京の人だと、なんか実は私が思ってたのは、なんか意外とできると思ったんだけど、実際はそうではなかった。
Yeah, they can.
なんかびっくりしたんだけど。
Yeah, they can.
なんか理解できるはず。
Yeah, they can understand a little bit and then they can speak words, but like, you know, since
まあ
like,
ほとんどは読めるだけって感じ。
yeah, they can read English papers, articles, theses,
でも
but yeah,
な
they
んかその
can't.
論文とか読めるけど、
Yeah,
その日常会話できないって
yeah,
悲
they
しすぎる。
can't. Yeah, so that's the
なんか
case.
それ理解できないんだけど、なんか
Yeah.
日本語だとその逆ななんかのことを感じてる人の方が多いと思う。
Yeah, they can't read
その漢字はめっちゃ難しいから。
Mhm.
うん。でも逆になんか論文とか読めるけど、なんかすごく悔しい科学的な説明を読んでいても、ハローとかになっちゃうと、やっぱ、この人死にそうだけど、な
Yeah.
んか単純な話ぐらいできないなんて、かわいそう。
And especially it's, you know, medical interviews, so doctors
うん。
couldn't like explain things. So I mean, like, I'm not.
英語で話さないといけないでしょ、その 医学検査みたいな
Yeah.
時。
Yeah. So like I'm not like really good at explaining like medical stuff, but yeah, since I knew medical information and I can speak a little bit better than the average Japanese people, so yeah, I went to help them at an emergency room and I explained what doctors were saying and so that was a really stressful morning. And after that, I went to a meetup event and yeah.
なんか思ったのは、その翻訳機会とかなかったの。なんか東京ではこれはなんか、まあ毎日なんか日常茶飯事のものじゃないかもしれないけど、少なくともいろんな日本語できない人住んでるから。
I guess.
経験は毎日あるんじゃないかと。
Mm-hmm. I think they have.
なんかどうするその時は。
And also, it
あやみがいない時はどうする
I mean, it was on a Saturday, so maybe there
なんか
were.
みんなが観光してる日でしょなんかいろんな人が怪我しちゃってるとか。
I don't know.
なんかちょっとありえないぐらい、なんかその東京、それは唯一のたくさんの英語できる人がいる場所。なんかその、東京でもダメ。
I mean,
なことは、あいみは結構すごいってことだよ。
No. I mean, I'm not. I think I'm at intermediate level still. But yeah, anyway, so the funny thing is, so they went to, so they had to choose a hospital, to see a doctor. And at first, they went to the A hospital. A ってAね、普通の。まあ、あるホスピタルで。And then, there, A hospital, rejected. Like, they said no to their, to their visit. Because I guess, but they were saying that the beds were full, so they couldn't see them. But I guess, because they couldn't speak Japanese and then they can't help them using English. So maybe that's why they said no to them. And they instead gave like a paper call here to for medical help みたいな. But and then it was just saying like go fuck yourself. Yeah.
病院に行きなさい。今病院にいないの今
Yeah
って感じ
So yeah, that was I guess that's not a good medical system for foreigners, but eventually like they went to B hospital, which is another hospital, and then they could make it. So which was good.
多分このことについてもっと話した方がいいかな。なんか私もちろん怪我した時に日本のクリニックに来たんだけど、まあ一応日本語できるからなんかすごく便利だと思ったし、安かったとも思ったんだけど、完全に日本語できなかった場合どういう雰囲気になるかな。なんか日本人知らない人とか一人で全く日本語できない人だったら何をするなんか想像できないから。
I can't imagine like getting sick and I don't know like
sick じゃなくてなんかすごいなんか大変な
urgent ね。そうね like
Hello, I broke my arm. Oh my god, help me. My name is Tanaka. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
What is your problem? My arm, it hurts.
I guess at least they can guess from your like body language and like like doing like this. It means like your like chest is painful. But like other than that, like they can't know like when's the onset, what's the symptom, and how long it's been like lasting, or something like that. So it will be it will be hard for foreigners.
そういう経験あったらぜひぜひコメントや ポッドキャストにいるので教えてください。気になるから。And we're back with the final section. And if you made to the final section, that means you send an email to lazyfluency@gmail.com with a comment, question, language related, and or otherwise. And this week we have 4 comments, but the first 2 are really quick. And the last 2 are about last episode and making relationships in the digital world. The first comment is probably the most important in my opinion, and it was from a comment from Graph. I don't know the full name. I would not even attempt to read it. And it was an idea for what kanji my name should have, which I agree with, which is Joi, and then using the kanji for Jo as in ue, and I as in rank, as in superior or top rank. And I appreciate that. Thank you. Then we have a comment from Paul. I guess this is all... we can include this into, I guess this is a quick aside. So he said, running is the only outdoor hobby I have. I get depressed when I think about it. Aren't Japanese people all still wearing masks? Is an in-person interaction complete if everyone is wearing a mask? Aimi, do you want to answer this question? What's the mask update 2024?
そうね。マスクアップデートは、まだ、そうね、まあ何%だろうね。20% から 30% はまだね、マスクしてる人はいるね。で、まあ、今私は病院にいるから、病院に行くと、その患者さんね、マスクしないといけないし、もちろんその、メディカルワーカーズもマスクしないといけないから、まあ全員マスクしていると、病院だと。けど、まあ、公共交通機関、まあ電車とか、まあバスに乗るときとかは、あんましてない人の方が多いかな、そうそう。で、なんでしてるかっていうと、多分今ね、花粉がすごいのっていうのと、ポーレンね。あと普通にコロナが怖いとかね。なんか2つのリーズンがあると思う。うん。
Do you think the masks inside the hospital on the patient side will ever go away?
ねえ、あとね、いや5年はあるんじゃないかな。まあ、少なくともね、今年に、マスク、しなくていいですよっていうのはないとは読んでる。だってまだそのクラスターとかあったりね、ホスペロでコロナ患者出ましたっつって、で、気をつけてくださいっていうの全然あることだから、まだまだな気がするね。けど、もうパブリックだと結構みんなしてないし。うん。だから私はもう病院から出たらすぐにマスク取ってっていうのをしてるけど。うん。
And that is the IME update of February 2024.
Yeah.
And now, on to the digital conversation. So, we have 2 larger comments from Shawcox and Oddity, and I thought they're very interesting. And I believe I actually disagree with them to a degree, but I also agree to some degree. We'll see what you think. This is about in-person relationships versus digital relationships in how this will go into the future. So, Shawcox. I do think in-person relationships are great, but I think what makes those special will be bridged by technology as well. Facial expressions and all of them are already tracked in the Apple Air thing as well as the Quest Pro. Then add in body language tracking and it'll make a fully virtual experience feel more indistinguishable, and I think that diminishes the importance of in-person relationships. I also think we've kind of adapted to be better at just audio and written communication our younger generations. I've had multiple friends over many years who I never saw the face of for years, like 10 years. And 10 years in, we did our first video chat. I've semi-theorized that it's contributed to what we determine is autism. People are adapting to not need facial expressions and body language. So we're thrown into a situation where they need to do these things. They're unable to read it because it was pruned away during the main pruning periods, 10 to 15 years-ish old. From all the Xbox friends. And they don't show it, leading people from generations just 10 to 20 years older thinking either that they're rude or they're weird when it's more so a product of the generation. I've seen the same thing with ADHD. There are people with ADHD and then people who adapted their given circumstances, leading them to act exactly how they should be expected to act given the specific circumstances, aka iPad babies. And then the comment from Oddity. Just as I started writing this comment, I stumbled upon an article in The Atlantic titled Why Americans Suddenly Stopped Hanging Out, which deals with exactly the topic of in-person relationships. Here's the worthy quote. From 2003 to 2022, American men reduced their average hours of face-to-face socializing by about 30%. For unmarried Americans, the decline was more than 35%. For teenagers, more than 45%. In short, there is no statistical record of any other period in U.S. history when people have spent more time on their own. The article goes on to say that there's been a parallel increase in depression, anxiety, and attributes this to people spending more time online than in others' companies. As a self-proclaimed introvert, I'd like to challenge this. I can't dispute the numbers. However, the numbers on their own are not enough to prove a causal link between the rise of depression and the decline of hanging out in person. I would like to argue that while people hang out less physically, they're more connected than ever. This adage about people being in public transport all glued to their phones and cocooned in themselves a statement about the alienation in modern society is false. In reality, most likely, all of them are communicating with other people, while appearing detached and alienated. The difference is that the internet allows them to communicate with the people they actually like rather than the stranger on the bus. Same goes for work and school. Instead of being restrained by the selection of people your physical circumstances offer, you can communicate with people exactly to your liking. That's not only freeing, it is the opposite of lonely. There's nothing lonelier than being amidst a group of people you have nothing in common. Are there benefits to in-person communication? Undoubtedly. Unmediated, synchronized communication is always better. But enough people have fallen in love and forged lasting friendships despite never having met. Ultimately, humans have ingrained need to bond. The paradigm through which that happens is secondary. I don't know if we have any thoughts about anything that they said first. I can ask you some questions about. I disagree pretty strongly with oddity, actually, and then only slightly with Chalcox. So I want to give you the floor. Do you think how important do you think like digital versus physical relations are, and do you think physical relationships can be replaced by getting better digital technology?
いや、それはね、
And do you think sorry, go ahead.
なんか completely はもちろんできないと思うよ。だってさ、AR だったとしてもさ、実際にタッチはできないし、まあ、もしそのタッチが再現できるって言ったとしてもさ、実際の感覚とは絶対違うと思うんだよ。から、100% を再現できないっていう点からもう違うものだと思う。で、なんだろうね、私がすごく気になるのは、なんか、インターネットの、まあ、パワーソーシャルのリレーションシップの時の脳の活動とか、どこが光ってるとかね、とか、電気信号がどこに行ってるとか、あとなんかケミカルが、どういうケミカルがどのタイミングで出るとか、っていうのの違いがすごく気になるね。その実際の、インタラクションと比べて。で、まあ、なんだろうね。で、そのパラソーシャルリレーションシップには、なんか、今の時代あってよかったと思うし、まあ、なかったらさ、このレジスフルエンシーもできないし、その自分のニーシュ、好きなものに対してのそのニーシュなものを見つけられるっていう点で本当にいいと思う。し、そこから、パラソーシャルからさ、なんていうの？インパーソンリレーションシップに発展することも多いじゃん。から、なんていうんだろう。
Yeah.
うん、そう。から、私は、まあ、賛成ではあるけど、でも、それを全部、なんていうんだろう。インパーソンのリレーションシップをパラソーシャルに全部、なんていうんだろう、移行しましょうっつって、全部 AR にしましょうってなったら、私はそれはすごく反対だな。なんか、インパーソンにするための手段として、パラソーシャルを使うのは、すごく賛成って感じかな。
Yeah, I guess with Chalcox coming first, from my perspective, it's incredibly difficult. Like, aside from smell, touch, like, as well as, humans have so many other, like, weird, random, like, whether it be heat or, like the very nuanced abilities, like, side pressure that you're talking about with touch, or the fact that right now, like, you AR, you can be in the same room, but we're not even close to getting that, like, everybody is in the same space that they are, like, when they're actually interacting in the same space, or when people are in AR, they're not actually, there's a sense of dissociation between the person that they, are showing and themselves. And so I think all these things that contribute to a physical space, and I think just because you're contacting with somebody, it does not mean you're getting the same thing out of it, just at all. I've never felt, I mean, maybe this is anecdotal, but I get probably like a tenth of, maybe even less, of like the feeling of connectiveness that I do when I'm in some person versus online. Sorry, I mean other way around. It just does not feel the same thing at all to me. It is so fundamentally different. But maybe I'm an exception here. I don't feel that connected just by messaging somebody online. I feel very lonely when I don't have an opportunity to like hang out with somebody in person. Like doing online replaces none. And that's something that I guess with digital oddity is I think the majority of time people staring at their phone, they're addicted to social media. They're not communicating somebody. You can be like, oh, they're communicating with humans. But let me read some. We're still talking about causation for correlation. And that's hard. You can say that about almost anything. Like it's hard to make causal links with like, for example, obesity and a lot of negative health effects. But how I look at it is if you have so many causal links that something is bad, like an incredible amount of causal links that something might be bad, then you might be able to treat that thing as a proxy for whether or not it is the cause. If you reduce your weight, it can lead to a lot of health benefits. And if you reduce, let's say, your phone or social media consumption, I think it can lead to a lot of health benefits. This is a article I have it from the Surgeon General issue. Is this from 2023? And here are some statements about media usage from it's a Surgeon General warning. So social media use can be excessive problematic for some children. Recent research shows that adolescents who spend more than 3 hours per day on social media face double the risk of experiencing poor mental health outcomes, such as symptoms of depression, anxiety. On average, they spend so this is talking about teens, they spend 3.5 hours a day on social media. Social media may also perpetuate body dissatisfaction, disordered eating behaviors, social comparison, low self-esteem, especially among adolescent girls. 1/3 or more of girls aged 11 to 15 say they feel addicted to certain social media platforms, and over half of teenagers report that it would be hard to give up social media. When asked about the impact of social media on their body image, 46 adolescents aged 13 to 17 said social media made them feel worse. 40% made them feel neither better nor worse, and 14% said it actually made them feel good. It could go. This is like a whole page. I might link this Surgeon General issue just for further reading, I guess. But that's just one snippet of it. I've listened to I'm a guy who listens to Senate House hearings for fun. And I listened to one that they had one about like the effects of social media, as well as some like the longer ones. And I just think it's really hard to make a positive mental health argument about social media. There are benefits, and I'm like, I think a lot of people do benefits, especially with niche interests. But I think the thing is, although social media allows people to engage with like some of their niche behaviors, which I think is a benefit, like, they wouldn't have anybody else. I think it also allows them to shelter themselves from a community, which they wouldn't have been able to do previously. And I think that there is an important factor in having to interact with people around you, even if it's not the people you want to. And I think it's still a benefit. But I think the internet allows people to completely self-isolate. And then, like I said, I do believe it's isolating because I don't think physical relationships actually are a good digital relationships are a good replacement for it. I don't know. I guess we agree in some. I don't know how much we agree on this subject, but yeah, I mean, I also am kind of a big boomer. Even though I do so much online, it's mainly because a lot of my friends are like that. I would love to almost do anything online. Like I said, I have friends who Discord, but I don't have any personal social media. I don't Discord and play games online, which can make me very lonely because I never get to hang out with friends as much as I do. I like all physical games. I play physical card games, physical board games. With video games, I only play them couch co-op. I almost feel nothing when I'm playing.
実際にさ、遊べる友達がいる人にとっては、そのフィジカルの、アクティビティはいいかもしれないけどね。遊ぶ友達がいないとかってなっちゃうと、ロンリーになっちゃうし、それこそ、インターネット使わないとね、そういう、なんていうんだろう、心の、なんていうの、穴っていうのを埋めるものがないからね。より、
I think even with the people who don't have other people around them, I think there is a benefit that it gives them some access, but I think that benefit can end up being a crutch because it forces them not to interact at all with the community around them. It just reminds me of what Americans are already doing too much, as it is. Yeah. Those are our thoughts. Thank you for the comments. That bell means we reached the end of today's episode. Thanks for joining us in another lazy conversation towards fluency. If you have any language-related questions and are just looking for general advice, send an email to lazyfluency@gmail.com and you might respond in the next episode. Also, consider supporting us on Ko-Fi to get video updates, Discord access, and or to just lend a hand. And finally, make sure to check out our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and more. We'd appreciate the support. This has been Joey.
Yummy.
Signing off. じゃあね。